It all started in Buffalo, New York on January 22nd, 1988. That's when Greg Oden was born, destined to make basketball rims across America tremble in fear. By the time he hit high school, Oden was already a towering 7-foot phenom. He dominated games like they were warm-ups and was considered the #1 prospect in the country. The hype was real, folks. Oden's high school career was a masterclass in basketball dominance. Think about it. He was so physically gifted that he could outmuscle players much older and more experienced than him. If you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got more sports stories that'll leave you speechless. The rise of a giant. Look at this man. He wasn't just playing basketball, he was bullying the hoop. His performances were mesmerizing, and soon every top college was vying for a chance to land him. Ultimately, Oden chose Ohio State University, where he would team up with future NBA players like Mike Conley and Daquan Cook. In college, Oden was the definition of a game changer. He had everything: size, athleticism, defensive dominance, and the ability to score. Even with a wrist injury that forced him to shoot free throws left-handed, he still led the Buckeyes to the NCAA championship game in 2007. This man was so dominant that NBA scouts were practically foaming at the mouth. And then came the 2007 NBA draft. Greg Oden was the #1 overall pick. The Portland Trail Blazers were convinced they had found their franchise savior. Little did they know, they'd actually drafted a walking orthopedic experiment. Oden had all the tools, except for the durability to match. His talent was undeniable, but little did we know, his knees had other plans. The injury curse begins. Greg Oden's NBA career got off to the worst possible start. He didn't even make it to his rookie season before his body betrayed him. During the 2007 preseason, Oden underwent microfracture surgery on his right knee, a procedure that sidelined him for the entire season. The injury wasn't just a setback, it was the first sign of a storm that would plague him for years. It was like unwrapping a brand new phone only to realize the screen's already cracked. Imagine the disappointment, not just for Oden, but for the entire Blazers franchise and fans. A player with so much promise had just hit the sidelines. But hey, setbacks are part of sports, right? Fans hoped that Oden would bounce back stronger, and in the 2008 to 2009 season, he did finally make his debut. The hype was back, and the NBA world was ready for him to make his mark. Sure, he wasn't quite the juggernaut everyone expected, but he showed flashes of brilliance. He averaged 8.9 points, 7.0 rebounds, and 2.1 blocks per game, looking like a dominant force at times. See that? That's the potential we were all rooting for. But then, disaster struck again. On February 13th, 2009, Oden suffered a chipped kneecap. The setbacks kept piling on. He returned for a bit, but the injury bug wasn't done with him. The following season, he fractured his left patella, ending his year early again. That's 2 major knee injuries in just his first 2 years in the league. How could a player so promising be so plagued by injury? The basketball world was left questioning everything. At this point, you have to wonder if Oden was cursed. Like, did someone mess with a cursed basketball at his draft party? Because this man couldn't catch a break. Well, actually, he caught too many breaks, just not the good kind. You have to wonder how much potential was lost to the sheer unpredictability of his body. Subscribe now if you believe Greg Oden deserves a Netflix docuseries, The Downward Spiral. As the injuries piled up, so did the questions. Could Greg Oden ever return to form? By 2010, Oden underwent another round of microfracture surgery, this time on his left knee. The Portland Trail Blazers, once so optimistic, were now staring down the harsh reality that their franchise centerpiece was falling apart. With each setback, Oden's career became more and more uncertain. How many surgeries could a 22-year-old athlete endure before his body completely gave out? Imagine being 22 years old and already having more surgeries than all-star appearances. That's not just bad luck. That's like the basketball gods laughing in your face. There's no player in the history of the NBA who deserves a health reset more than Greg Oden. By 2012, the Blazers decided enough was enough. They waived Oden, effectively ending his time with the team that had once seen him as their savior. It was a tough decision, but one that made sense given his health struggles. The team couldn't gamble on a player who had become a liability rather than an asset. And, let's face it, Oden's knees were like ticking time bombs. And let's not forget the salt in the wound. The guy drafted right after Oden in 2007, some kid named Kevin Durant. Yeah, that Kevin Durant, the future MVP, NBA champion, and certified bucket getter. Oden's legacy would forever be tied to the what could have been comparisons to Durant's success, and it only added to the agony of watching a player like Oden slip through the cracks. It's like ordering pizza and getting salad, only to see your neighbor enjoying the best slice of their life. The Blazers could have had their very own superstar. Instead, they were stuck with injury after injury, and let's not even get started on the other draft picks that didn't pan out. A brief comeback. In 2013, Oden tried to make a comeback. The Miami Heat gave him a shot, and for a brief moment, it felt like redemption was possible. He wasn't going to be the same guy he was pre-injuries, but maybe, just maybe, he could contribute to a championship team. He wasn't expected to be the next Shaq, but fans held on to hope that he could at least show a fraction of the potential that had made him the #1 pick. Sure, he wasn't dropping 20 points a night, but just seeing him back on the court was a win for fans who'd been rooting for him all along. Oden played 23 games during the 2013 to 2014 season and even got to be part of a team that made it to the NBA Finals. Talk about an emotional ride. But as we all know, the NBA Finals were brutal for Oden. He wasn't quite ready to go toe-to-toe with the big dogs like he used to. Unfortunately, the comeback didn't last. The knees weren't cooperating, and Oden's NBA journey officially came to an end. It wasn't a dramatic ending like you see in Hollywood movies, but rather a quiet and painful realization that his body couldn't handle the grind anymore. The dreams of watching Oden dominate alongside LeBron James and Dwyane Wade were dashed. It's like when you reboot an old favorite TV show and it just doesn't hit the same. You're glad it's back, but deep down, you know it's over. Oden's time in the NBA was over, but he would always remain an enigma, the greatest what if in NBA history. Life after basketball. After his playing days were done, Greg Oden could have easily disappeared from the spotlight, but instead, he found new purpose. Oden took a step away from the game for a while, but he didn't let his career define him entirely. He went back to school, earned his degree, and even worked as a student manager for the Ohio State basketball team, where it all began. It wasn't the glamorous comeback some fans wanted, but it was a comeback in its own right, a story of reinvention. Oden also embraced his role as a mentor, helping younger players navigate the pressures of basketball and life. He became an example of resilience. It's inspiring to think that someone who had every reason to feel sorry for themselves chose to build a new path. He didn't let the failure of his NBA career define who he was or who he would become. Greg Oden may not have had the career he or anyone else dreamed of, but he's turned his story into one of resilience and reinvention. He showed us all that there's more to life than basketball, and it's possible to find meaning in new ventures, even after falling short of the goals you once held. Greg Oden is more than his injuries. Sure, his knees betrayed him, but his heart, that's unbreakable. Greg Oden's story isn't just about what could have been. It's about finding hope in the face of heartbreak. It's about resilience, growth, and showing the world that you're more than the challenges you face. Oden's legacy isn't defined by his knees or injuries. It's defined by how he kept pushing forward, despite everything. So the next time someone brings up Greg Oden, don't just talk about the injuries. Talk about the man who refused to let them define him. And while you're at it, define your YouTube experience by hitting that subscribe button. Trust me, your knees will thank you.